Coming today. Last night, in conjunction with the Pennsylvania State Police, Federal Bureau of Investigation, detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohlberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murder of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee. I want to personally thank these agencies for their assistance in this case. Kohlberger resides in Pullman, Washington, and is a graduate student at Washington State University. We will provide as much information as we can about the extradition to Idaho and the criminal process. However, due to Idaho state law, we are limited in what information we can release today until Kohlberger has his initial appearance in Idaho court. I want to express my appreciation to our local community, the people of Idaho, and those throughout our nation who provided information to help us investigate these murders has been very impressive. We've received over 19,000 tips, and we've conducted over 300 interviews. To recap this case, on the evening of November 12th, Kaylee and Madison arrived home at about 1:56 a.m. after visiting a local bar and street food vendor. We're at the Sigma Chi house before arriving home around 1:45 a.m. The two surviving roommates had also been in the community but returned around 1 a.m. On the morning of November 13th, a 911 call was made at 11:58 a.m. reporting an unconscious person at the residence. The call came from inside the home from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones. Moscow police responded and found 2 victims on the 2nd floor and 2 victims on the 3rd floor. On November 17th, autopsies were conducted and the Latah County coroner confirmed the identity of the 4 victims. The cause and manner of death was homicide by stabbing. Some had defensive wounds, and each had been stabbed multiple times. These murders have shaken our community, and no arrest will ever bring back these young students.
Happened in that Latah County courtroom today is Jason LaBar. He's the chief public defender for Monroe County, Pennsylvania, and actually represented Brian Kohlberger for a very short time during his extradition hearing in Pennsylvania. Jason, your thoughts as a defense attorney representing, many people accused of murder on what that probable cause affidavit alleged?
I had an opportunity to obviously go through the affidavit of probable cause several times now. I looked it over carefully. It's a strong circumstantial case, but the evidence, when it's viewed individually, you can attack that evidence as a defense attorney. Now, again, we're just in the infancy of the case, so much of this evidence is actually going to come after the preliminary hearing time, although we don't know now with this 5-month delay what's going to be available. But if you take the DNA evidence that's recovered from the sheath, for instance, I believe that to potentially be touch DNA, transfer DNA, which would mean that it could remain on that sheath for an indefinite period of time if undisturbed. That's one way of attacking that type of evidence that doesn't put him at the scene of the crime the night of, just that he merely touched that sheath at some point in time. The ID by DM is obviously going to be contested at the time of the preliminary hearing. I don't believe hearsay is admissible in Idaho under the rules, so it would be likely that DM is going to testify at the preliminary hearing when it gets to that point. So cross-examination of her is going to be key in the case to possibly get even more holes, as mean that it could remain on that sheath for an indefinite period of time if undisturbed. That's one way of attacking that type of evidence that doesn't put him at the scene of the crime the night of, just that he merely touched that sheath at some point in time. The ID by DM is obviously going to be contested at the time of the preliminary hearing. I don't believe hearsay is admissible in Idaho under the rules, so it would be likely that DM is going to testify at the preliminary. Hearsay is admissible in Idaho under the rules, So it would be likely that DM is going to testify at the preliminary hearing when it gets to that point. So cross-examination of her is going to be key in the case to possibly get even more holes as far as the identification is concerned.
So let me ask you, you think it's a strong circumstantial affidavit, but did you see anything else there? I mean, you said you saw places where it could be attacked, and right now it's words on paper. That's all we have to go on.
Right. And there's no direct evidence linking him other than that transferred DNA on the sheath. The idea, as I stated already, isn't complete 100%, oh, it's Brian Koberger. The white Elantra can't be determined to be his white Elantra. I mean, there's circumstantial evidence indicating that it could potentially be his white Elantra, but there's certainly not direct evidence. They don't have direct evidence that he's driving the white Elantra. They're using cell phone pings, which we all know as defense attorneys aren't GPS location coordinates. If it was GPS location coordinates, you're talking down to a meter as to where Brian Koberger was at the time of these crimes. Whereas a cell phone tower ping is that you're within a radius of that tower up to 20 miles. And obviously, Mr. Koberger lived within 10 miles of the University of Idaho where these crimes were committed. So certainly he could ping at any moment in time near the actual crime.
Jason, you were his attorney maybe for 4 or 5 days, something like that. How do you keep in contact with his public defender out there in Idaho, or are you just kind of done and observing this?
I'm merely done and observing and really viewing everything objectively because I was really working in the dark and blind when I represented Brian. The affidavit of probable cause wasn't even available to me, so I couldn't even discuss the affidavit, even if I wanted to, with him, because really I didn't want to because I didn't want to reveal anything about the case that would be specific to the facts and circumstances with him.
He's a smart guy, obviously, PhD student, 28 years old. He seems very attuned to what's going on. Yes, he understands his rights. We would expect that he would. How involved was he in, the aspects of what the extradition hearing was going to be? Obviously, we knew that was a formality, but how interested was he in, being a part of what was going on, or was he letting you take the reins? I know that, he was involved somewhat. Is that right? And talking about that statement that you put out where he said he wanted to be exonerated.
Yeah, I was able to talk to Brian over the course of the 5 days for approximately 4 hours total. He was engaged with the conversations. He was aware of what plans I had, and he was good with everything that I laid out for him, including the statement. The statement of him being exonerated implicitly meant that he was innocent of the crimes. He used the word exonerated. That's why we put that in the statement. He wanted me to reach out to family, stay in contact with family, which I did to keep them abreast of the situation. Really, he was just aware and willing to cooperate with me. I didn't have too many issues speaking with him, if any at all. He was obviously, as you said, intelligent PhD student. It's much easier to talk to him than many of my clients that I have. It was a nice change of pace for me.
That's a nice thing to say about Brian. He's a decent, intelligent young man. And we've heard that plenty of times before. It's never been said, besides by Brian Anton, that Brian Koberger said, "Did y'all catch or did y'all arrest the other people, the other suspects?" He's never said that. If he's ever said that, we would have heard it directly from mainstream news channels like ABC and CNN. It's never been stated that. He used the word exonerated. Like his lawyer, his previous attorney in Pennsylvania, who used to be a former prosecutor, knows these cases best, and he means it just doesn't cut it with a white Hyundai Elantra that's not even the same year model they were searching for. Just because he was driving around those areas doesn't necessarily mean that he stopped, he parked his car, he got off, he went into the sliding door, he unalived 4 victims that he doesn't even know. If he had other crimes, I would have understood if he was in the system before. They changed the timelines for a reason.
As you said, intelligent PhD student. It's much easier to talk to him than many of my clients that I have. It was a nice change of pace for me.
And
what he says next is going to debunk what Howard, Blum, or Bloom says. Him and his fiction book shouldn't be involved in this case until the correct justice is done.
Actions with the parents, his family, what can you tell us about that?
I mean, his family's distraught. They're shocked by the arrest. They are in constant contact with him still. I believe they're talking daily on the phone, really just making sure that everything's going okay with both sides. Because I know Marianne, his mother, was very upset and was having trouble coping with the news. But really the family's just taking it day by day, keeping things private, hoping, for really that Brian's doing okay.
And I can imagine any parent would be distraught about this. Do you expect to have any contact with him whatsoever, just as somebody who worked with him?
I don't expect to speak to Brian in the near future, certainly.
That's Jason.
No, I don't have anything else. I just appreciate your time. I know I've been stressing since my representation of Brian that he's entitled to a fair trial. And really that's why I'm trying to be a voice for him so people don't jump to conclusions and raise these biases so that he can actually have a fair trial with the presumption of innocence obviously being at the forefront here, really just getting that fair trial.
Today I'd like to talk about the ladder that was kneeling on the side of the house. You can see it on the right-hand side. Strangely enough, it looks like it's placed in a position where somebody was actually climbing up. In the very beginning of this case, we all used to have a lot of discussions about the ladder. Many people thought it was red liquid under the window. Honestly, I used to pass it away by saying the liquid isn't directly under the window, although it dried up. But when you zoom in and look at, zoom out even, doesn't matter. It looks like there's a lot of red there. What is strange is the police was, 3 detectives were standing near the ladder and looking up the building. Did they know that somebody climbed up? I wouldn't imagine Zana would have had her window open. It was cold. But what about the living room window? I've always thought that the fight broke out at the hallway, because if you pay attention to the corridor, it looked like in the living room, in front of DM's room, it looked like the actual crime scene. Pay attention, even now in court, a lot is coming out about DM. It's kind of mental state, psychological state, and then questions need to be asked. Was she intoxicated? Could she have been on drugs? What was going on in the house? Because Ann Taylor said that somebody was running from the third floor to the second, then again to the third, and landed in the second floor. That wouldn't have made sense. But then again, Ann Taylor said that DM wasn't sure if she was dreaming or not. So the question is that red liquid that dried up, did they even do a forensic test? The FBI joined 5 days later, let's not forget. The tripod said it was 2 a.m. at night when it recorded a female running from the sliding door, hysterical, running towards the front of the house. A black truck is what was said. And we saw a black truck going past Taylor Avenue at exactly 3 a.m. when the Banfield stop is going on. DM heard rummaging upstairs was leaked by the grand jury. What if they were climbing up the steps, the ladder? They went to the living room? Or maybe, what if, this would make more sense, what if after Xana and E were unalived, if they were unalived last, what if the suspects came out of the window and down the ladder? Because it looks like somebody could have made a mess with red liquid. Because let's not forget, didn't DM, the surviving roommates and BF, one day running around hysterical, calling Hunter Johnson so that he could help to open Xana's door because he was blocking the door? Interesting. So did they use the ladder to climb upstairs? I've always believed that something happened in the living room. That's where one of the 3 unidentified male DNAs was found, on the good wives. The second was the glove. The third was the Vans shoe diamond print in front of DM's room. And the knife sheet was the touch DNA. But now we hear about red liquid on the railings. So there had to have been a fight. This wasn't something that just easily happened. It wasn't a random person or a hitman who came and did these awful crimes. These were people that knew, I personally believe, these were the frats. These were the Sorochis. These were the Jacks, the Davids. Allegedly. That's my opinion. Because they're doing the most movement that night. 4chan makes the most sense. There are 3 targets and 3 motives. At the same time, Hoodie Guy had his targets. He was out for Ethan and Kaylee. May they rest in peace. Kaylee got him kicked out of the corner club, and he got him kicked out of the fraternity. One on the 2nd floor, one on the 3rd floor. Makes more sense to me. He knows DM and BF because he went to the same high school in Boise, Idaho with them. You know we're going to get you for that, Maddie. He meant him and the frats and the college boys. That's why I believe there's something going on with this case. You can see a fight broke out in the living room. Maybe he was wanting to warn Xana. Somebody unalived him there. Unfortunately, may rest in peace. One of my favorite people to listen to in this case is Sloan Bello. Although she's a psychic reader, her stuff is always on point. Everyone on YouTube, I guess, thousands of people wrote comments to her to please read what she can about the Ida Moscow. I'll add some, which I find very interesting because that is exactly where my content was from the beginning to the end. Sometimes it does look like my content is a lot that I may be accusing different people allegedly, but that's not what it is. This is an entanglement. They all are entangled in this together. From the frats to the Jacks to the Davids allegedly and Adam and many more things. That's exactly what Sloan was getting in her readings. This is for fair use purpose.
To begin with, because I feel that he was there. I'm not disputing that. I feel like he was there. I feel like he was known to everybody in that house. No, I'm not disputing that. I feel like he was there. I feel like he was known to everybody in that house. Known peripherally, known through a friend of a friend, known. Okay, I don't feel like he was somebody that they didn't know. I feel like somebody in that house absolutely knew him.
That makes sense so far. I personally believe BK could have known one of the surviving roommates, and it's not because he was stalking or this is a crime of passion. I'm thinking more as a mental health counselor. When people have been under serious addictions for a very long time, like Brian Koberger was in, nobody knows if he could have easily relapsed. But that doesn't mean he did the crimes. I'm just trying to find what could have brought these people to know each other. And BF is Venmos allegedly say a lot about COKE. And if Brian Scar was really seen there, it could explain the reason he's saying BF has escapatory evidence. Maybe BF saw what happened at the frats, that it was the Davids and the figures running around, and the 4chan, not the 4chan, sorry, but the Banfield boys and all knew something or the other. People at the grub truck were carrying large machetes. Put all that together, and then you'll understand why I believe This is from the university itself, the students. Why else would the college try and protect their students? Not for something that the 4 victims' parents did in the past. You can check my whole channel. I don't talk about the parents at all. And I try to show my respect to the 4 victims. But I'm going to question everyone else. Because that's important. The surviving roommates, the police said it themselves in the beginning. Chief Fry said, he corrected the reporter and he said, I never said that they were witnesses. I said they were just there. So even Chief Fry didn't consider DM and BF as witnesses. And now we are finding out she wasn't even in her right mind. What did they have in the house that they couldn't call the police for 8 hours? Why was it important to call Hunter Johnson first?
Being. So I feel these ideas were projected onto him, and he was placed in that area very specifically to cause distraction. There are a multitude of things going on, and I don't even think that his brain understands what's going on. I'm not saying he's not guilty. What I'm saying to you is there is a succession of events, and there is multiple reasons for those people being murdered, not just one, and not just one person, and not just one group of people. This is a complete trifecta, a perfect trifecta of 3 different organizations. My mind was going everywhere, okay? Speaking to me, I had trouble sleeping. My mind was going absolutely over here, over there, trying to feel the energy. I heard Kaylee say very strongly, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And I was trying to ask her, what are you sorry for? Because I don't think she had anything to do with it. I think she spoke out of turn to somebody that she thought was a friend of hers. And this is a guy, not a girl. I feel like she was in the acquaintance of somebody who she did not know was connected to the group that she was speaking about. And I feel like that tripped her up. Very strongly, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And I was trying to ask her, what are you sorry for? Because I don't think she had anything to do with it. I think she spoke out of turn to somebody that she thought was a friend of hers. And this is a guy, not a girl. I feel like she was in the acquaintance of somebody who she did not know was connected to the group that she was speaking about. And I feel like that tripped her up. I don't feel like she knew, or she read it, or she could see it. So I feel like she came into the proximity of one of the 3 different people, different circumstances, different groups, if you want to put it like that. One of the 3 different groups that was focused on removing the people in that house from what they did. I also then went right over to Dylan, and there is a complete mask over her energy field. I cannot read her for the life of me, and she is not who she presents herself to be. I'm talking, and who they're talking to is a turncoat or a Benedict Arnold or a person who is setting them up, getting information about when they're going home, what they're going to be doing. I feel like the girls were talking to the enemy without knowing it was the enemy.
That would make sense. They were talking to Jack D the whole night. The shoes and jacket comparison was Jack D. It was done in the beginning of this case. Adam is sitting more with Shawalter. So Jack D was the enemy, I guess. Wasn't it strange that Maddie and Katie was calling Jack D on the whole 10 times, and right after the last call at 2:52, we hear a female yelling, "Stop it, stop," 2:54. I think that's when Kaylee and Maddie were unalived, unfortunately. Whatever happened at the grub truck and the corner club is relevant to this case. Now they're finding red liquid on the railings, according to Ann Taylor, and she was given this information only 2 months ago. What are they playing at? One, they're handing over all the evidence. This red liquid on the railing was never mentioned in the beginning. It was just a knife sheet. The glove outside the house, which I showed you clearly, it's a Banfield boys. The guy has only one glove on, and I've always said, in my opinion, that is the glove. His glove is this. It looks similar to that one, the one that Chris McDonough found. Then you have the van shoe, diamond pattern footprint of one shoe only in front of DM's door. So it all started from here, I guess. Kaylee was texting someone and receiving texts. She was really busy with the phone at the grub truck. I wonder if she was talking to Jackie and he was finding out the information when they would reach home, allegedly. But they had Hoodie Girl with them. Could have easily followed them.
A person who is setting them up, getting information about when they're going home, what they're going to be doing. I feel like the girls were talking to the enemy without knowing it was the enemy. Now, what do I mean by that? You're thinking, who wants to kill young girls, right? Besides sexual pervert, which is where this case is going when they focus on Brian Koberger. They focus on, he's on the spectrum, he's OCD, and he is a Scorpio. They do stalk people. I mean, that's just factual. They do it for fun. Scorpio rising, Scorpio moon, whatever. Scorpio sun, they can't help themselves. They rule that part of the chart. They also make great detectives, okay? So they will research. I feel like Brian was called in to the house after the fact or during the fact to follow up on the fact. That's actually what I think. I realize he was there, but I'm trying to feel what he's doing, and it feels like that's actually what I think. I realize he was there, but I'm trying to feel what he's doing, and it feels like I'm cleaning up behind somebody. I'm cleaning up. Okay, so it looks a little bit, and I'm not apologizing for him. I don't even want to hear that in there. I'm telling you what I'm feeling, and I don't have to feel what is written in the newspaper. That's not how psychic works. That's not how mediumship works. That's not how energy reading works. And I'm getting really amped up with it. I hear Kaylee again saying, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I hear Xana talking to her mother. I'm hearing that. There's some.
I wonder what could have Kaylee told Adam or Maddie told Adam or Kaylee told Jagdi. What could have been that bad? Was it about money? Was it about rugs, allegedly? Was it about Hudson Lindo, who was found unalived? Although they say it was an accident, it was clearly foul play, my opinion. At the Paradise Creek after Sigma Chi fraternity party. Now pay attention. Another Sigma Chi fraternity party happens and a quadruple happens. So on the whole, we have these 4 victims, may they rest in peace, and we have Hudson Lindo, both after the Sigma Chi fraternity party. Isn't that strange? And we know the 2 Davids, Ethan and Xana, had beef. They had brewing beef that was going on since fall. Plus, David B was E's tutor. And David L wanted Xana for himself. Allegedly, according to Anonymous of the 4chan, said they would do it in 19 minutes, makes sense. I just don't believe it was the Sigma Chi fraternity who did it by themselves, allegedly. They were under the microscope. They were under investigation. That's why the police could never get Xana and Ethan's timeline right. Kaylee and Maddie came home at 1:56, but they never corrected it. They want the timelines to soothe for them, as long as it makes sense for them to place Brian at a certain time. And then they went further on to change the whole timeline from 4:05 to 4:25. He ain't a hitman. He's a PhD teacher assistant in Washington Pullman. Are they ignoring the other unidentified male DNA sources found there? Why didn't they put them under genealogical? Why didn't they make snips of them too? What about the cigarette butt? This crime scene was so tampered with right from the beginning. The glove was found like a week and a half later.
Paperwork or looking for information in the house. Now, I don't know how much paperwork anyone keeps in those like fraternity houses or sorority houses or on-campus houses, but I'm feeling like they were looking for something in particular. I also feel like a call was made at about 11 o'clock the night prior on the 12th, and everything was set into motion then. It was set into motion. It's going forward. Now, I feel like this is connected to something so much more than like, I'm pissed off at you, I'm a psychopath, I'm coming to kill 4 random people. That house was being watched. They were being stalked. Everybody in that house was being watched, okay? Everybody, not Madison, not just Kaylee, not, Bethany, not just Dylan, all of them. And there was one other girl in there.
Xana. Definitely the house was being watched. Maddie and Kaylee were being even watched at the grub truck. So when I put all my findings and listened to Sloan Bella, who made her content of the Ida Moss kill a year later, 10 months later, it just lines up so well with everything that I found. Not only with Sloan Bellow, it lines up a lot with what the G family said. After I found Saeed watching those pictures, they said Kaylee was found in the sitting position. I can see what I see, and I'm so tired of talking about these guys carrying. Nothing has been done. Sharp edge weapons, definitely. This guy who's carrying the large one on his belt is one of the figures I saw running. And hoodie guy is the next. And this tall guy too. Many of them were the figures running, allegedly. All standing there waiting for Kaylee and Maddie to walk in. This all can't be a coincidence. This was the glove. And you can see the middle one in the band field wearing one glove. This guy in the blue shirt is the one who's wearing the belt and carrying the whatever he's carrying in his pants. These three turned away when Maddie and Kaylee walked in. The Sigma Chi fraternities. You see David Lodge there, and he was at the grub truck. This was 3 minutes after we heard a female yelling, "Stop, stop, stop it, stop." And this was 2 minutes, actually 4 minutes after the last call by Maddie and Kaylee to Jack D. Quite interesting.